Ons fokus hierdie maand op autisme-bewusmaking. En Ilana Gerschlowitz kuier vanoggend hier by ons om te gesels oor haar boek Saving My Sons, A Journey with Autism. Hallo Ilana, welkom.
Dit is so wonderlik om hier so te wees vanoggend. Baie dankie.
And it's Eli next to you, if I'm not mistaken, nee?
Dis reg, dis Eli en dit is my seun in matriek.
Hallo Eli, lekker om met julle te gesels. Ilana, ons praat oor autisme en wie dan nou beter om mee te praat as jy. Vertel ons die boek, Saving My Sons, A Journey with Autism. Die titel alleen laat 'n mens oor 'n baie klomp goed wonder. Jou seuns, meervoud, hoeveel seuns is daar? En wat is hierdie journey geweest? Daar's soveel vrae. Waar begin ons?
Ja, jy weet, it's been so many years. I wrote the book, Saving My Sons, A Journey with Autism, because I wanted to share with parents and professionals the journey I walked with autism, just to give you insights into my family. I have 3 boys. My oldest son, David, is now 20 years old, and he has profound autism. Sitting next to me is Ellie, and I was actually pregnant with Ellie when my oldest son, David, was diagnosed with autism. Ellie had normal development, and we're so blessed that he's in matric this year. Years later, I had a 3rd son, and he was also diagnosed with autism. So autism came knocking on our door a 2nd time, and I wanted to share the treatments I followed in Saving My Sons. So that's why I wrote the book, because my youngest son actually lost his diagnosis and recovered from autism. I also have seen so many children over many, many years, and I wrote the book because I wanted to give parents hope and a guide on this very, very treacherous journey.
It is going to be quite informative, picking your brain in this book. I am very excited to read it, the whole thing. Ellie, tell me, being a middle brother with 2 brothers that were diagnosed with autism, what does that change in your average life? Because, I mean, none of us can imagine that. You're our first go-to guy to speak about that.
So it's a really good question, because autism has affected my life. My brother's autism diagnosis has affected my life and my whole family's life. Firstly, I would say that I had to grow up very quickly and take a lot of responsibility. My older brother David can have seizures, and I have to be trained in first aid to deal with those when he has a seizure. And it's very difficult, and it's unpleasant, because I feel sorry for him when he has a seizure. And also, my brother's nonverbal and he can't speak. So it's very difficult for him, and it's difficult for me to see him in such a way, unable to communicate his basic needs and wants, how he feels. And it's difficult to really establish a good relationship because he cannot speak.
Well, I think it's so nice to actually hear from siblings as well. So we often hear from parents explaining their experience with having a child that suffers from autism, but we don't often speak to siblings to hear how they experience it. And it's really quite nice to hear how you say you found it difficult and you had to grow up fast and almost kind of a little bit of a childhood. I don't want to use the word lost, but you did have to become mature very quickly to help and assist with those kind of things. So I guess my question then for both of you would be, how did you feel when you heard the word autism the first time? Mom, maybe Ilana, we can start with you, and you can tell us when your oldest son got diagnosed, how did you feel?
When that word autism rang through my ears, initially you are absolutely in shock. When we received the diagnosis, it felt honestly like a death sentence. The doctor who delivered the diagnosis said my son would never speak, go to school, hold down a job, have friends, that I should take out an insurance policy, accept this and look after him for the rest of his life. There was no social worker to hold my hand. There was no parent to hold my hand who'd walked this journey before. And that's why I'm so passionate to help other parents in this position, because Autism is treatable. There are so many things we can do to help the children gain independence and functionality. As a family, you can create a new normal, and that's why I wrote Saving My Sons.
Ilana, you said now it is treatable. A lot of people, like you say, still see it as a death sentence. If it's diagnosed early enough, is that where you want to start working? Is it? Can the treatment be more effective earlier in an autism, in the life of autism, or is it still effective later on? How does it work?
I'm so glad we're talking about this, and that was one of the reasons I wrote the book, because there's so many misconceptions about the diagnosis. Autism is, in fact, a digestive disorder. It is autoimmune, and there are metabolic imbalances. It is not psychological, requiring as a first-line treatment psychiatric medication. With the right education program in the form of applied behavior analysis, if we look at the research, we can already see research from 1987 showing us, demonstrating that autism is in fact a treatable, and in some cases, a diagnosis where the children can in fact recover. Recovery means they've lost their diagnosis of autism. Now, no parent wants to witness their child non-functional, not able to communicate. Have you got any idea, can you imagine just for 1 second what it must be like if you can't speak, express your feelings, your needs, your wants? So it's very, very important that children receive the right treatment, the right education program. Eli will also tell you a little bit more about the gut-brain connection.
Yes, please do.
So also to add in, just back to your earlier question, I'd say the first time I heard about the word autism, I felt a lot of anger and frustration, because for me, my older brother, he couldn't talk, and therefore I didn't really have an older brother to teach me things to play with and have fun. So I felt really upset because autism left my brother debilitated. And I would say this led me to want to study medicine, which I'm hopefully going to study next year, because I want to become a doctor that treats autism, because there's a very big necessity for it. And I would say, having my experience growing up with my brothers, it would be a very suitable thing to do. And also, autism, it's a very complicated disease. So in order to treat it, because recovery is possible, it's been really well published in scientific studies. There's Dr. Lovas, who established the ABA methodology that my mom was talking about, and also Martha Herbert from Harvard. She also wrote a study showing that a significant amount of children can recover from autism, meaning that they're indistinguishable from their peers. And this is based on a treatment program revolving around a biomedical side, because autism is also a medical illness, while also treating it with applied behavior analysis, which treats the behavior side of it.
Ilana and Eli, thank you very much for sharing with us. Saving My Sons, A Journey with Autism, a book that I am definitely going to dig into much deeper. I also have family that has been affected with autism, so I am very interested in the subject. Thank you very much for sharing your insights with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having us. And if I can just leave your listeners with a message of hope. Autism does not mean game over. It means game on. Put on your boxing gloves and fight for your child. There is nothing to accept about an autism diagnosis. The children can learn functional skills, and you as a parent do not need to give up on your hopes and dreams for your child's future. Don't let anybody put a ceiling on your child's development.
Thank you very much. Nou ja, meer kan ek nie sê nie. Dit was dan Ilana Gerschlowitz en Eli.